Hello, everyone. This is a psychic reading on the new leader of the US. I will not be mentioning names because of the algorithm. And so let's go ahead and get into it. So, what I'm seeing for this new leader will be well, first of all, I want to address the idea that there could be a third world conflict, and I don't see that being the case. I don't see us being dragged into Armageddon or anything quite like that, as has been seen by some other psychics, but that's not what I've been seeing. I do get the sense, though, that he may not last the whole term. 2025 looks like it's a good year for him. 2026 seems like there may be some challenges that start to arise, and there may actually be some new global conflict or some type of issue that makes life more challenging for him around 2026. And in 2027, he could just disappear. And I'll get more into that later, but first I want to get into how things look for 2025. And what I was getting was the first 6 months, it looks chaotic. And you could probably assume that, that just seems obvious. But that's what was showing up for me regardless. And the second half is where things get interesting because I was seeing these bright beings. That's the best way that I can describe it. Just they look like people, but they're kind of emitting light. And these are visions that come to me, and so a lot of the times they're more of a metaphor than literal, and I believe that this is more of a metaphor that I was seeing here. But I was getting the sense that these are beings coming to the US from Europe, or they're bringing something from Europe, and there's some sort of collaboration involving Europe. These are new messages that seem to be coming from a higher vibration. A lot of the changes on the planet have been bringing us into higher vibration since, well, going way back, but it's really kind of started amplifying up around the year 2020. And it looks like 2025 and 2026 are going to be big years for that. I would say specifically 2026. But going back to 2025, there's this new form of consciousness coming through these people, this group, this movement, you could call it. And it's going to be somewhat shocking to people. It's going to kind of shock both the left and the right wing of politics and kind of bring people back together through that shock and that ability to kind of let go of their supercharged idealism of both sides. So, again, this is a newer form of consciousness coming through that's going to be fostering more understanding. I was also getting technology coming up as being a big deal that's going to be changing humanity and just the way that we do things. And I was also getting alternative healing coming up, as if there's going to be a new acceptance of, well, possibly energy healing, but also alternative forms of medicine, such as acupuncture, but new things that aren't really on our radar yet. So, one thing that came to my mind after I was getting this information was Europe and the food quality of Europe. And it's very possible, although this is not me reading, this is me just thinking, it's very possible that the quality of food in Europe that is so much better. For example, people can eat bread in Europe and not get sick the way that the bread in the US causes people to get sick. And maybe some of that will be coming to the United States, and maybe that's some of what this is all about. But I think it's going to be bigger than just that. That's just maybe a part of it potentially. But ultimately, what I was reading was that it's going to be more of a spiritual minded type of situation coming to the US. And I almost want to say that it felt like it was like extraterrestrial in nature, but I don't want to jump to that conclusion because I kind of feel like that's more likely to happen in 2027 actually, when more of that information comes out. It will be coming out leading up to 2027, but I feel like 2027 is the year where it will be basically public information that there are ETs around on Earth. So moving on, what's going to happen with Israel is I'm seeing in 2025 it's actually escalating despite what you may think, or despite some of the promises being made. I do see there being more damage caused to Israel in the short term because of this, because of escalations. But in the longer term, it does seem to not last as long. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's just however you want to look at it, I guess. As far as Ukraine and Russia, I was seeing both of those countries kind of turning their back away from the peace treaty and not really wanting it, like both sides, strangely enough. But I do see there being an agreement made regardless. But I don't see it as effective as some people may wish. And it may take until around March for the battle to really simmer down. Even with that shift, that major change, I still see non-governmental groups and paramilitary groups fighting still in Ukraine. And so there's continued bloodshed regardless. It's just going to be on a much smaller scale. But Russia continues to take more land in southern Ukraine after the fact, is the sense that I was getting. May not be a lot, but it was showing up as something that could happen. As I've predicted a long time ago, since before Russia started their invasion, I was saying that they're going to take land and increase their boundaries, and everybody was saying I was wrong and that Ukraine's going to win, etc., etc. But I've continued to say that, and we're still seeing that happening, and I do believe that that will be the end result, that Russia will have more land and take that away from Ukraine. So after this happens, after things kind of simmer down a little bit, I'm seeing Russia focusing more of their attention onto NATO and some of that energy of battle that was going to Ukraine being focused on other countries around the world. This is not to say that I see Russia directly attacking other countries, but more so working with other countries to undermine NATO. So that's what I'm seeing for that. I don't see all the corruption being drained as has been promised by the new leader coming in. I do want to mention also really quick that the US seems to become a little bit more of a globalist country, despite the idea of being against globalism. It's a brand new type of globalism where the so-called globalist agendas of the past are taken away, but they're kind of replaced with a different type of global dominance over the world. So there's still cooperation, but it's with different countries and in different ways. So I still see globalism happening, but it's just in a different sort of way. Also, I forgot to mention that in the long term, yes, I do see Israel winning, and Ukraine obviously not winning. And that's something I've said from way back for both of those conflicts. I actually predicted, I think in 2022, I was. No, no, no. In 2020, I was predicting that there would be a world conflict involving Ukraine and Moscow, that the the US government would not be directly battling in. And that was exactly what happened, and I said it would happen year 2022, and that was the year that it happened. So, all of these things have come to reality so far. So moving on here. Let's see, I have to find where I left off in my notes. So I do see military industrial plans being thwarted that have been part of the previous globalist agenda, if you want to call it that. So I do see that stopping. I don't see quite the idea of all of the corruption being drained as has been proposed, but there is some aspect of that happening for sure. The focus is going towards other countries, so a lot of the energy and focus that could be put onto the corruption within the US is instead directed towards other countries. And so that's part of the reason for that. Especially within the first year, but pretty much the whole 4 years of the term, actually. As far as health regulations go, I do see changes being made that do seem very positive, but I don't see massive restructuring of everything, but it seems like they're steps in the right direction as far as health regulations go. I do see situations with the political elite, such as politicians and celebrities like Diddy, for example, situations like that being exposed more, and there being less kind of censorship and secrecy around those types of things. So I do see a lot more information coming out. And this would have been happening regardless of who's coming into office. It doesn't really matter. That's just the natural state of where humanity is headed anyways. But I do see around 2026, the person who is coming in becoming a little bit more desperate and trying to keep up with their promises and public image regarding the U.S. economy. And this is where there could be some type of event that happens around the world, or some type of situation where he has to react in a way that could be perceived as being a little tyrannical by a lot of people in the rest of the world. But it does seem as if he gets what he wants in the end, and it improves the U.S. economy. And so he becomes a little less focused on that in the following year of 2027. But along with that, he seems to be less focused on politics in general, and his focus in general seems to kind of fade away and fade out. And it seems as though around this time he may actually potentially be taken out, or just step down. And it's hard to say what the situation is because I don't know. This is just the sense that I'm getting, and I do my best not to jump to conclusions. I do get the sense of a slow decline of some sort moving into that regarding his emotions and his mind and ability to really care about what's going on around the world. So it just seems like he eventually just kind of can't really cope with what's going on and his job. So it does seem as though he might come back later on, but I wasn't too sure of this. I was just seeing images of him, putting his fist in the air and people cheering, but I wasn't sure if that was a reference to the past or the future. Again, I get my information through visions and intuition and things of that nature, and so I wasn't quite 100% sure. So I don't want to jump to conclusions with this. He may or may not come back. That may be the end of him. I'm not sure, but it just seems like 2027, there's a chance where he may just disappear. And I'm going to leave it at that for now. I have more on my Patreon page. That's the gist of the information for that. But I've done a blind reading on this person, which is basically doing remote viewing without doing the whole structured protocol. It just means that I don't know who I'm reading. I assign a 6-digit number to a bunch of different people, and I randomly pick one, and I don't know who I'm picking. So I don't know when I'm able to do readings on people, because otherwise I would know who I was reading. So I have a long list, and it's going to take me like years to get through all of them. But anyways, I did a reading on this leader coming into power now, and you can learn more about him and kind of the powers behind him, kind of where his loyalty is, and it's kind of a little mixed and different than I would have expected. But anyways, you can find out lots of information about him and all sorts of people that I do these blind readings on, as well as, of course, my Bitcoin and altcoin predictions and all my just world news about whatever's going on in the world. So you can join my Patreon page for free for a 1-week trial if you want to see all that for free. And it's also like an encyclopedia of like all these different people that I've done readings on. So feel free to use the search bar to search for whatever concept or person you want to find more information about. The information will be below this video, so sign up for free. It's really easy to cancel the subscription before you get charged. It's 2 clicks, and then you may have to click a third time to click OK. But it's basically 3 clicks from the Patreon page. And I can give you directions if you're not able to find that out, how to do that. So thank you for watching. If you like this video and this information, give it a thumbs up. I always appreciate that. And if you want monthly predictions before the month starts, every month, I've been doing it since 2020. So subscribe to the channel if you want to see those predictions every month. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.